to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and I am the Quiet Warrior, and I'm excited to have on the show today Zack Miller. Hey, Zack, welcome to the show.
What's up, Tom Dutta like butter? How's it going?
I was just going to say Dutta like butter. I think I heard that from a guy I know. Hey, it's going great. Really excited to have you on here. I think you're down in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm up here in the west coast of Canada.
It's only like 3,000 miles away, but technology allows us to connect.
Yeah, how'd you get the string connected to the can so far?
Amazon. Well, hey, Zack, it's exciting to have you on the show. I want to turn it right to you. Tell us a bit about yourself. Currently, I'm 34 years old. I wrote a book called Anomaly, How to Finally Stand Out from the Crowd. However, I don't call myself an author. I really feel like I'm just kind of like a normal person who is trying to share a different story, though, where growing up, I feel like everyone is taught to basically be the same as everyone else. And I think that's wrong. I think that we should be creating the lives that we want and enforcing and using what we're best at or the things that we love and building careers around that. And it's something that I've lived by for a long time, but only recently really started understanding that, maybe acting a little different and standing out is a good thing. And there's something there that I think a lot of people can build off of. I went to school, got a degree, worked for the man, hated it, and then was kind of stuck. Like, what do I do? I have $100,000 in school loan debt. I'm unhappy. I could go move to a different city and do this exact same thing, but I don't think that's going to be fulfilling. And I just basically became a big fan of YouTube University and taught myself everything about business through others and trials and tribulations, and recognize that to be noticed, you have to be very different. And I'm on a mission now to meet as many people as possible through this thing I call Just Say Hey, where you meet people on the street and just say hello. And being courteous and kind and thankful for everything along the way. And that's one of the ways that you and I met is we both have the same publisher, but there's thousands of authors under Morgan James, and not everyone introduces themselves to everyone. And so that's something that I try and do to the people that I can find and say hello. And I recommend everyone else in the world doing that as well. So.
Well, hey, world, are you listening? Because this is a great lesson in leadership from you, Zack. Hey, you know what? You're so humble, and that's what I talk about when I bring guests on the show. That this is about not ego; it's about being authentic. Man, you got it. But I've read your bio. I want to build you up a little bit and brag about you, so the audience really get a depth about what's behind you. And you started your first business at the age of 10, which is pretty remarkable. I can't remember what I was doing at the age of 10. And you've spent the last decades, as you touched on, helping people build and grow their businesses. This word anomaly stood out for me. That's one of the reasons why I connected to you and you connected to me, is you are different. But it goes greater than that. I mean, you've done some things that some of us dream about. You landed an interview with Daymond John, the shark, the host of a business TV show on ABC. You did that. I even read that you talked at the White House. My goodness, what a story that is to tell. You're featured in magazines and, did many things. And you have a radio show as well. I want to plug that. It's called Zack Miller Says. It's a podcast. So, you've done all that. But one of the things that stood out for me that you said, Zack, was you said, you took the path you were told to. And I read in your bio, you says, I was miserable and wanted something different. So I threw in the towel without knowing what to do next. I think that's a good segue. Why don't you take us back? I mean, this is about the hero's journey. Start at that point, or go back as far as you want before that. You grew up into this world with nothing in your brain, and you started learning. So what happened, and how did you move forward for that? Give us some learnings.
So I don't think that I grew up in what now I think we would call like the entrepreneurial buzzword land, where being an entrepreneur is cool. when I grew up, that wasn't an option. Owning a business wasn't an option. The option that was sold was go to school, do well in school, then you can go to another school, spend a lot of money, then owe a lot of money, and then you can, get that job that you worked so hard for. So the whole business side of it wasn't an option at that point. Even though I had a business at 10 and things like that, and was in like leadership and managerial positions my whole career, it never, that aha moment, that light bulb moment never really kind of hit until maybe even a decade ago. But I went to school, West Virginia University, and I love school. Like I love education. I love learning. But I was taking at the age of 18, basically, hey, what do you think you're going to do for the rest of your life? And I think that's a really hard question to answer at 18, at 20, at 30, at 34 now. Like I have better understandings of what I want to do now, but like at 18, that's a really hard question for someone to be thinking about. And I've always loved things, and I'm a huge sports fan. I love amusement parks and roller coasters, and so I would look back, and as I look back at things like that, I go, oh, like I should have created blogs and content around that stuff, when I was a kid, but I didn't because no one really told me to. And so when I was looking back at some of those life adventures where I would travel the country, the United States, to different amusement parks to ride roller coasters, I would have a lot of conversations with my friends about that. But nowadays, if I was to do that, I would create content around that, create point of view videos on roller coasters, and share different images of rides being built and things like that. And I could have built that roller coaster universe online. And I'm not like, this isn't an excuse or anything like that. I'm just saying like, that's what I would have done before, and I could have been building credibility. And so as I looked back on the things I was doing, I was like, oh, well, I need to start creating content, start creating what I'm working on so that I can find people who also are interested in those topics. I can teach them, or they can learn different ideas from it, and maybe create a business out of that. And so when I got out of college, I immediately worked for a TV station for 3 years. And for the first year, it was fun. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm making $25,000 a year. I have a car that they gave me that I don't have to pay for. That's cool too. But it was really that honeymoon phase. And what's really interesting about it is after that honeymoon basically died, I started to become miserable, and I realized that meeting someone on the worst day of their life every day is not fun. And so for the example I'll give is TV news, the cliche kind of motto is, if it bleeds, it leads, meaning people dying is what they want. So much so, and I'm not lying in any kind of way when I say this. This newsroom had a bell that they would ring when there wasn't a breaking news story, hoping that there would be some sort of, if it bleeds, it leads story to lead the newscast with.
Wow.
So that plus egos, right? So we all have egos, but people who are in the media, and especially on TV, they really just want to be on TV, which is fine. But then you get like all these reputations and egos in a room, plus the worst day on everyone's lives. And you're running around, and like you never have holidays off. And so like there's just all these things that I was not expecting. And it made me a stronger person, don't get me wrong, but like I was like, I can't do this anymore. This isn't what I thought I was getting into. And so around that time, for about a year, from year 2 to 3, I started looking for jobs and careers. And what was interesting is I basically was just searching for the same career in a different area over and over and over again. So yeah, I'd move to a different area. Yeah, I'd make a little bit more money, but that misery would still be there, right? I'd still be seeing and meeting people on the worst day of their life every day. And eventually I couldn't do that anymore. And so I got an opportunity to join an early stage company. I did that for a little while, and that helped lead me towards kind of doing my own business stuff. And I remember something completely crazy about this whole world with the TV world is when I gave my 2 weeks, I'm quitting basically. I was expecting them to just be like, okay, you're done today, because basically everyone else that had quit before me, they basically were like, you're done. You don't need to work anymore. Just leave. And so it was really weird because they let me fulfill the 2 weeks and they tried keeping me,
Yeah.
which I wasn't anticipating. And so then at this point, I decided that, hey, I'm leaving no matter what. And my boss at that time was like, we want you to stay. And I was like, this is really interesting. Had you shown this much energy in me before, I might not have felt this way, but you didn't. So I had to quickly say, no, this is a business decision for me. But a lot of people, I think, would get that question, hey, we want you to stay. And they would stay, and they'd stay in misery. And so it was important for me to do that. And, one of the better decisions I've made in my life. And so I didn't want to be in negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to jump in there and let you catch your breath. I mean, wow, you've given us so many lessons in leadership here. I just want to honor you, Zach, for a couple things. You sent my heart on a journey in so many directions. I'm going to start with the word miserable. I mean, I read a statistic somewhere, and I think you confirmed it for us, which is brilliant, that 80% or more of people hate their jobs, yet nobody wants to get fired. And there you are, all of a sudden making a decision. That's what blows my mind, why I honor your story, why it is heroic. You may not look at it that way. That just to take that step to resign from a job that's paying you with a car allowance and $25,000 a year. A lot of people wouldn't do that because of the fear of failure or whatever it is that holds them back. I mean, I love that line, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, I can relate to that just watching social media and the TV. But there you were, and you were miserable, and you took that step. And that was really the next question I want to ask you, and then you can keep us going, because I want you to get into the part of the story where you started creating things. And that's the thing I realized, that we're born sometimes with a personality that has an entrepreneurial gene. And sometimes I've heard leaders say they've been misplaced on this unthinking treadmill in a job, a lot of times because of influence from others, but they discover there's something burning in their gut to go out and create. You look at some of the top people in the world who dropped out of school and created these amazing companies. I believe you could have created the online version of the roller coaster, how to do this, how to do that. And you took that step to move forward in this different direction. So just tell me, what was the trigger for you when you were miserable? There you were, you had a steady job, you didn't like everything. What was the actual trigger? Is there any one thing that you said, screw it, I'm leaving? And then take us into, what did you do with that? I mean, a little bit about the Anomaly method and the things you've been doing lately with your work.
Was there an aha moment where I had to leave? I think it was just building up and building up and building up. And how like you just like freak out at someone, like that was that moment. And it was like, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And so several scenarios, built up, dozens, hundreds of scenarios built up over and over and over again. You have enough of those, you realize, okay, it's time. And then I guess I just did it. And then second question was kind of starting content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to throw a few things out here.
Yeah.
Anomaly, how to build and dominate your brand, how to win customers, influence your team. Dude, where's my card? How to create lifelong, meaningful relationships. I mean, your body of work is so deep and vast. You do so much. That's why people should have you on the radar. In the time we have with you, just give us a few nuggets of anything you want to add value to the conversation. To be an anomaly, how do you do that?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer in the little things. So a lot of our world has made it really easy to be lazy, right? An example, and I was telling you this earlier, is when it's someone's birthday on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you get a message saying, "Oh, it's Tom Dutta's birthday." Most people will then just say, "Happy birthday, Tom. It's great to see that you're another year older." And it's basically from this person that you haven't talked to through since, I don't know, middle school, high school. You're not really friends with them, but they like say happy birthday to you. And it's nice. It's great. But it's like the safe bet work. It's super easy to do that. And on LinkedIn right now, you don't even have to type anything. You just have to, they have a a pre-selected, what do you want to say to this person? Happy birthday, Tom. Like, it's so lazy. So I say, do the little things, which is pull out your phone and create a custom video that, you basically say, hey, Tom, hope you're doing well. When I saw it was your birthday, happy birthday. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers. And that's it. And you send that to you, right? Or whoever that person is, or, writing a handwritten card, or saying hello to someone, holding the door for someone. Those little things, they build up because you start creating these habits where it becomes just natural. And to me, you can meet anyone that you want, you can do whatever you want, but you have to do the little things, right? And so if you want to meet someone, what are you doing to make sure that you meet that someone? Like, if you are at an event and they're there, go introduce yourself to them, say hello. It can be hard for people, but you also then, it's hard for you to have those goals if you're not willing to actually go after them. And so most people have goals. The people who achieve them are the ones that do the baby steps, the little things to get to those big goals, because a series of little steps leads to big adventures.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I read somewhere, I just made a note of this here, Zach, that it says Zach provides a proven, cheap, and easy to implement methods for those who want to turn heads, be memorable, and become the anomaly. And I met a lot of entrepreneurs, who, especially startups or guys who have started companies, and everybody thinks you have to have big marketing budgets or big budgets for startups. What I really love about the work you're doing, and I want to focus a bit more on the book, the Anomaly, the method you have is, as you said, to take simple little things to stand out from the crowd. One of the things that drives me, and I think you and I connected on this, is building deep relationships. I really believe that the work I do is, in the success I have, is based on building relationships with other people. And I'm not talking about, hey, Zach, come on my show and then we'll talk to you. Maybe we'll talk to you again. Yeah. Give us a secret about how you build a tip about when you meet somebody, how do you keep a deep relationship, or how do you grow that relationship?
Well, let's use the example of you and I, right? So you and I met because we're both under the same publisher, right? So I can't even remember the exact scenario. I think maybe we started writing on each other's Facebook posts or something like that. And then we started having conversations with each other, and it's more than just.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, I saw this guy with no face and you got me.
Well, I mean, it can be simple things like commenting and creating a relationship with someone on a social network where they post something and you like and comment, you engage.
Yeah.
Then on the opposite side, engage back, right? It could then be taking it to the DMs or to the emails or the phone calls or the Zoom calls, the Skype calls, whatever, and just creating a relationship with that person. So finding some sort of alumni factor, or something that I call the fraternity of podcast guests, which is basically saying, okay, if there is a trend or a podcast that you like or that you've been on, go through the entire list of people that have been on that podcast and just introduce yourself to them and say, hey, I've been on the Quiet Warrior podcast with Tom. I'm Zack Miller, and of the 57 other episodes that you've had with guests, you can reach out to all those 57 and say, hey, we both run the same show. I'm using that kind of as our equalizer, and just say hello. 90% of the people I have found will say hello back, and then you create the relationship right there. You're not selling anything. You're just creating a relationship with people. And 10% won't. And so you don't worry about those 10%. You worry about those 90 who say hello. But what's interesting in this is the reason you don't sell right now is because people don't want to buy right now. They want to, when they're ready to buy, they will buy. And so you don't want to be that like annoying oil salesman or the used car salesman that no one appreciates and likes. You're trying to create champions of you who go to bat for you and be like, oh man, this person is amazing. And you do this by creating real meaningful relationships with people, and you're authentic about it. And yes, business can happen with friends. The majority of people I do business with are friends, and they give me a lot of money, but I've created lifelong relationships with them that took time to get that, their wallet out. And so, actually care, be genuine, figure out something unique about them, right? Like for you, it's like your tattoo, you're a big Seattle Seahawks fan. I don't know why. Like little things like that, like take notes. Like if someone is wearing a specific item of clothing, comment on that. if you see that they wrote a book, find things that they want to talk about and talk about those things. Don't just talk about, oh, go buy my thing. Like, no one wants to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, you've given us so much to think about there. I mean, you're a master at that. I think I learned myself too that there's a word called rapport. And when I met you, you make me feel like we have something in common. And if you did that so early in the conversation, man, it was like I wanted to just be with you. The other thing I thought about from what you said, Zach, is I learned in sales myself that there's this subconscious brain and it has a sales filter. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I sometimes meet people who go right into sales mode and then my filter starts going up and it's like I'm running away in my subconscious brain, which controls everything I'm doing, even without them knowing it. So great leadership lessons from you on building relationships. I think you can teach many. Quite frankly, I work in the leadership area of top executives. There's a lot of people, CEOs included, who run companies who sometimes aren't as comfortable, building rapport with other people. They're fast-paced people, power-based, get things done, and I think you have a real gift there. I want to ask you one more question, and then we'll sort of turn the spotlight on you to tell us how to get a hold of your body of work. And this one might be a little challenging, but you know what? It's about making mistakes. So what was your biggest mistake or failure, and what did you learn from it?
Man, I fail all the time. Let's see. Which one do I want to talk about? So, I've had to let go of teammates. That's always a hard thing. Mostly because they become family and you feel like you failed them. So that can always be a difficult thing. I've gone into debt, which, there's many reasons why those things happen. But I don't know that I've like a super big failure. Like, the word failure is so interesting. Like, I actually don't think that I've ever really, really failed. What I've done is I've made mistakes that I can learn from. Like, to me, failure is like absolute the worst rock bottom of the world. And most people don't go through that. So like, I feel like failure is too negative of a word. And I think actually in my book, I had not used the word failure, and then my editor added the word failure. And then I think I pushed it out and said, no, it's too negative of a word, because it's been buzzword too. Just like entrepreneurship is a buzzword, like failing, like you're not really failing, right? Like, even in a school like test, you're not really failing. Okay, yeah, you didn't do well on the test, but is that like failing? Like, to me, failure is like, I don't know, the worst thing possible.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what that is. And so like, it's become a buzzword. I think it's too negative. Like, if you're not, like, it's learning experiences, right? So like, yeah, you go into credit card debt so that you can learn how to manage money better. You do this so that you can not do that, right? And so like, as long as you can get out of those experiences, like, I think you're going to be okay. But like, the word failure, most people aren't really failing. They're really learning, right? And so understanding that there's a reason why one thing happens or another, and figuring out ways to learn from that, I think, is what's really, really, really important.
Well, you just convinced us, or you didn't have to convince me, but you just told us why you are the anomaly. That is a great answer, and I agree. I learned from the other mentors that there's two things most people fail. One is failure, and I think the other one was love, not being loved or enough. And man, words matter. You just hit on it. You nailed it. You gave us a great lesson that just focusing on the word failure is not enough. Changing that into a learning experience, that's just gold. So thank you for that lesson. And I want to turn it to you now,
Very
Zach.
welcome.
And yeah, tell us about your body of work. You got this amazing book. By the way, it has a kick-ass cover on it, Anomaly. Tell us where we can get a hold of your book and you, if people want to engage you for your speaking and the work that you're doing.
It is like the greatest book cover of all time. So,
Well, maybe the second best book cover of all time.
Okay, I know what we're going with there. There you go. All my social handles are my name, Zack Miller, and then the word says, all one word. So Zack Miller, MILLERSAYS, Zack Miller Says. That's also the website, zackmillersays.com. And if you want the book, simply go to that website, or type in Anomaly and my name. But I'm super active on most social channels. And then the podcast, everything is branded under my name and then Says. So Zack Miller Says everywhere. If you spell it with an H, you won't find it. So make sure you spell it right. Zack Miller Says.
All right, there you have it. That's Z-A-C-K, or if you're a Canadian like me, Z-A-C-K. And I encourage everybody to read this book. I've read it. I've rated it highly. And there are many things in it that you'll learn from it. Even somebody like me who's been in business for 30 years, and you're going to learn some stuff. It's keep it simple. It's get it done. In fact, Zach, I want to plug it, and I usually don't do that. But when I read your book, at each chapter, there was a call to action to do something, to actually do something that can move you forward, generate some income or new business. And it's just fantastic the way you've written that. So everybody, find this show on iTunes, give it a rating so that we can honor Zach's work, and, find the true purpose in your life, live with action like Zach does, and live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca